Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we cut through the noise to bring you the most important nuggets of knowledge, giving you a shortcut to being truly well-informed. Today, we're plunging into a fascinating book that has sparked, well, immense conversation, Michael Pollan's How to Change Your Mind.
Huge book. It covers, the new science of psychedelics, consciousness, dying, addiction, depression, transcendence. It's all in there.
It really is. And Pollan takes us on this incredible journey, doesn't he? Through the history, the science, the personal stories.
He does. And our mission today really is to distill the core insights from his research. We want to highlight how these powerful compounds are quietly re-entering mainstream science and culture.
And what that might mean for all of us, for our understanding of the mind and human well-being.
Exactly.
Pollan, who we mostly know for writing about food, right? He took this deep dive himself into this, let's face it, often misunderstood realm.
A very personal dive, too.
Right. So we'll extract the most impactful takeaways, from the surprising origins of these molecules to their therapeutic potential, even the profound personal experiences they can trigger.
So what does this all mean for you listening in, wanting to grasp this complex subject quickly?
We'll guide you through it. Let's unpack this journey, starting at the beginning, or maybe a few beginnings. Because the compounds Pollan focuses on, psilocybin and LSD, they have really different origin stories.
Oh, completely different. You've got psilocybin first. Imagine this molecule with an ancient past, used for millennia by indigenous cultures.
Like a sacred thing.
Exactly, a sacrament. It's found in magic mushrooms, obviously. And for thousands of years, people in Mexico, Central America, the Aztecs notably called it tianacapel.
Which means?
Flesh of the gods.
Wow, okay.
But then, history happens.
Yeah.
The Spanish conquest, the Catholic Church, they saw these practices as pagan.
And suppressed them.
Brutally. Drove psilocybin use underground for centuries. It basically vanished from Western view until the 1950s.
And this rediscovery wasn't it a banker, an amateur mushroom guy?
Yeah, kind of amazing. R. Gordon Wasson, Manhattan banker, amateur mycologist. He finds it in Oaxaca, Mexico in 1955.
And tells the world.
Publishes his account in Life magazine in 57. Huge deal. Suddenly, it's back in Western awareness.
Okay, so that's psilocybin. Ancient roots, suppression, rediscovery. But LSD is a totally different story. Accidental.
Completely accidental.
Yeah.
Pure lab serendipity. Albert Hofmann, young chemist at Sandoz Labs in Switzerland, 1938. He synthesizes lysergic acid diethylamide LSD-25 while looking for circulatory stimulants from ergot alkaloids.
But he didn't realize what he had.
Not at first. It kind of sat on the shelf for 5 years.
Yeah.
Then, 1943, he accidentally absorbs a tiny amount, maybe through his fingertips.
And that was it, the first trip.
That was it. The famous bicycle day story where he felt strange, rode his bike home, and experienced, well, the world's first intentional acid trip.
What did you make of it?
He was completely baffled. Was it madness? Was it transcendence? He wasn't sure. But crucially, he immediately thought it had medical potential. Maybe for understanding psychosis, like schizophrenia.
So these two incredibly powerful substances hit the West. One ancient, one brand new. What happened next? Because the 60s, things got complicated fast.
Oh, they really did. It's fascinating how quickly they were embraced and then just as quickly rejected. These two molecules basically fueled the counterculture.
The whole turn-on, tune-in, drop-out thing.
Exactly. The acid trip became this rite of passage for a generation. It was massively disruptive.
And that disruption led to pushback. Pollan calls it a moral panic.
Absolutely. By the late 60s, the tide turned hard. You had all this publicity about bad trips, psychotic breaks, suicide, some exaggerated, some real.
Leading to
them being outlawed, classified as Schedule I substances, the most restricted category, which just slams the door on legitimate research for decades.
And Timothy Leary looms large here, doesn't he? The Harvard researcher turned guru.
Yeah, Leary's role is complex. He went from respected academic to advocating, widespread, often unguided use. Turn on, tune in, drop out.
Which didn't help the scientific case.
Not at all. It massively contributed to the moral panic. It made it almost impossible to separate serious scientific inquiry from recreational rebellion. The drugs got this counterculture personality, making them seem really threatening to the establishment.
So a dramatic rise and fall. From sacred medicine and scientific curiosity to Schedule I. How did things ever start to turn around? That quiet reemergence in the 90s and 2000s.
It's a great comeback story, really. It took a small, dedicated group, scientists, psychonauts, people exploring these states responsibly, who believed something important was lost. Pollan highlights 2006 as a real turning point.
2006, what happened then?
Two key things. First, Albert Hofmann's 100th birthday symposium in Basel, Switzerland. Scientists gathered, openly discussing the potential of psychedelics again. For consciousness research, for therapy.
A kind of public rehabilitation.
Sort of, yeah. And then, just weeks later, a huge legal decision in the U.S. The Supreme Court ruled unanimously that a religious group, the UDV, could use ayahuasca, which contains DMT, as a sacrament.
Based on religious freedom.
Exactly. The Religious Freedom Restoration Act. It was a major signal that these substances could be considered legitimate in certain contexts.
So this wasn't overnight. There were key people laying the groundwork for years.
Absolutely. Paulin introduces us to several figures. Roland Griffiths at Johns Hopkins, a respected meditation researcher who got interested in psilocybin's ability to induce mystical experiences.
Okay.
Then there's Bob Jesse. He was an Oracle executive, believe it or not, who founded the Council on Spiritual Practices. His focus is interesting, the betterment of well people, not just treating illness.
Using psychedelics for growth, not just fixing problems.
Right, and you absolutely have to mention Rick Doblin. He founded MAPS, the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, way back in '86.
MAPS is huge now.
Huge. Doblin was relentless, lobbying for research, particularly MDMA for PTSD. He literally plotted the path back to legitimacy in his Harvard dissertation. These folks kept the flame alive during the dark years.
Okay, so the research is back. But how do these drugs actually work? The science part. How do they manifest the mind, as the term psychedelic suggests?
That's where things get really interesting. And Paulin unpacks the evolving science beautifully. Even the words we use have changed, right? First hallucinogens, but that's not always accurate.
Right, not everyone sees things that aren't there.
Exactly. Then psychotomimetic, meaning mimicking psychosis, or psycholytic, mind loosening. Finally, Humphrey Osmond coined psychedelic in '56, mind manifesting.
Some people say entheogens too, right?
Yes, emphasizing the spiritual potential generating the divine within. But the real breakthrough Paulin highlights comes from modern neuroscience, specifically brain imaging.
What did the brain scans show? Something unexpected.
Totally unexpected. Groundbreaking research from Robin Carhart Harris at Imperial College London. Everyone assumed psychedelics would increase brain activity, light everything up.
Makes sense. Big experiences.
Right, but the scans showed the opposite. Psilocybin actually reduces brain activity, specifically in a network called the default mode network, or DMN.
Reduces activity. So quieting things down is the key. What is the DMN?
Think of the DMN as your brain's headquarters for self-referential thought. Your ego hub, kind of. It's busy when you're mind-wandering, ruminating, thinking about yourself, the past, the future.
Our internal monologue generator.
Pretty much. It also acts like what Aldous Huxley called the reducing valve, filtering all the sensory chaos so we can function day to day.
Yeah.
Paulin emphasizes Carhart Harris's idea by temporarily quieting the DMN.
You loosen the filter, let more in.
Exactly. And crucially, you disrupt rigid patterns of thought. The DMN can get us stuck in loops, depressive rumination, addictive cravings, obsessive thoughts.
So psychedelics disrupt those loops.
That's the theory. Carhart Harris talks about increasing brain entropy, more flexibility, less rigid order. He thinks maybe disorders like depression, addiction, OCD involve an excess of order, a hyperactive DMN trapping people. Psychedelics shake the snow globe, as Paulin puts it.
Shake the snow globe. I like that.
Yeah.
Allows new patterns to form.
Precisely. It creates this temporary window of mental flexibility. And Paulin connects this to Alison Gopnik's work on how babies think.
How so?
Gopnik suggests young kids have this wide-open, high-entropy consciousness, diffused attention, exploring all possibilities, magical thinking, less filtering. Psychedelics might, in a way, temporarily return adults to that state of neural diversity.
Seeing the world fresh again.
Kind of like that, yeah, a reset.
This isn't just theoretical. The therapeutic potential seems immense, especially for things that are really hard to treat. Paulin focuses a lot on end-of-life anxiety.
Yes, the studies at NYU and Johns Hopkins with terminal cancer patients are incredibly moving. The results were profound.
Can you share an example?
Patrick Metz, he was a news director, dying from bile duct cancer, terrified of death. After one high-dose psilocybin session, his fear just vanished, or was greatly diminished.
Just like that.
He described experiencing this overwhelming sense of love being the only purpose. He said he felt, despite dying, the happiest he'd ever been in his life. It gave him peace.
That's incredible.
Another woman, a breast cancer survivor still plagued by fear, had a vision of herself becoming part of the earth after death, and it brought her comfort. Therapists even call it death practice.
practicing letting go of the ego, the body.
Yeah. And often finding, as Pollan puts it, the comforting news that something is on the other side. Whether that's objectively real or not, therapists like Tony Boss has said, look, if it relieves suffering, if it gives them peace.
Then does it matter if it's real?
That was their pragmatic view. The relief was real.
So how can one type of experience help with such different things? End-of-life fear, addiction, depression.
That's a key question. Tom Insel, former head of the NIMH, suggests maybe our diagnostic categories, the DSM, are a bit too rigid. Maybe there's an underlying mechanism these drugs address across different conditions.
Like that rigid thinking, the overactive DMN.
That seems to be a common thread. Breaking people out of those destructive mental loops seems key, whether it's fear of death, craving a cigarette, or depressive rumination.
We see that in addiction treatment, too.
Definitely. Pollan highlights a pilot study for smoking cessation using psilocybin. The success rate was something like 80% after 6 months.
80%? That's unheard of for smoking.
Absolutely. One participant, Charles Besant, said that after a session where he felt part of something so much larger, smoking just became irrelevant. It echoes that old rat park idea. Change the environment, the perspective, and the addiction loses its grip.
And general depression, too.
Yes. The FDA actually encouraged trials for major depression. Imperial College studies found patients describing depression as feeling disconnected, trapped in a mental prison. Afterwards, they felt free, re-energized, like a veil dropped, again breaking free from those rigid states.
It's clear it's not just the drug itself, though. Pollan stresses the context. Set and setting.
Hugely important. It's not like taking an aspirin. Your set, your mindset, intentions, expectations, and the setting, the physical and social environment are critical.
Who figured that out?
Figures like Al Hubbard were pioneers. He was this fascinating, almost Zillig-like character, the Johnny Appleseed of LSD. He realized you couldn't just give someone LSD in a cold clinical room.
So he changed the setting.
Yeah, he'd make treatment rooms feel like comfortable living rooms. Music, art, flowers, bringing a kind of shamanic sensibility, warmth, and safety into the therapeutic process.
And having someone there with you is vital too, the guide or sitter.
Absolutely essential. Whether it's a therapist in a trial or someone in the psychedelic underground, they provide reassurance, guidance. Bill Richards at Hopkins developed flight instructions, mantras like trust the trajectory, trust, let go, be open.
Encouraging surrender, not fighting the experience.
Exactly. You have to surrender to it. The guide is there to help you navigate, especially if things get difficult.
And the work isn't over when the drug wears off, this integration idea.
Crucial. Pollan emphasizes this strongly. The experience itself can be profound, even mystical, but making sense of it afterwards, translating insights into lasting change. That's integration, often done with the guy or therapist.
Like Houston Smith said.
Right, the religious scholar. A spiritual experience does not by itself make a spiritual life.
Yeah.
You have to do the work to integrate it. Otherwise, it might just remain a weird trip.
And Pollan didn't just report on this, he undertook his own journeys. That first-hand research seems key to the book.
It really brings it alive. His descriptions are fantastic. His first psilocybin trip, for instance, with his wife Judith there as a sitter.
What was that like?
He learned to kind of manage the intensity by opening or closing his eyes. He describes this incredible connection to nature in his garden, seeing leaves glowing, feeling the trees were like parents. A plant's eye view, he called it, full of poignancy.
Feeling interconnected.
Deeply, part and parcel of all that was transpiring. But then there was his 5-MeO-DMT experience.
From the toad venom. That sounds intense.
Off the charts intense. He described it as pure and terrible sensation, complete ego-dissolution, every marker of identity annihilated. Yet he remained conscious.
Terrifying.
Terrifying, but also transformative, like a Big Bang run in reverse, followed by rebirth. He had a vision of his son, a profound feeling about prioritizing being over doing.
So what's the takeaway from losing your ego, even temporarily?
That was Pollan's big insight, I think. He found their life after the death of the ego. The consciousness is much bigger than our everyday sense of self, and that letting go of that ego temporarily isn't something to fear. It might even be necessary for spiritual growth.
It shifts your perspective on yourself and your place in things.
Profoundly. It allows you to see yourself not as this isolated, defended ego, but as part of a much larger whole. That interconnectedness seems key to overcoming fear and anxiety.
So we've covered a lot. The history, the neuroscience, the therapy, the experience itself, all through Pollan's lens and How to Change Your Mind. It really feels like the landscape around mental health, consciousness, It's shifting.
It really is. And what's clear from Pollan's work is that these aren't magic bullets. They're powerful tools. They need respect, careful setting, and that crucial integration work to really bear fruit.
They definitely invite us to question our normal waking consciousness.
Yeah, to ask what we might gain by occasionally and responsibly stepping outside it.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the final thought for you, listening? If our everyday mind is just one way of constructing reality, maybe optimized for survival, but also potentially limiting.
What might you gain from cultivating a bit more neural diversity, from shaking up those rigid patterns?
How might a glimpse into these other ways of being conscious, guided safely, change your perspective? Not just on your own mind, but maybe on your connection to others, to nature, to the universe.
Imagine, as Pollan suggests through stories like Patrick Metz's, if more people could touch that sense of profound connection, that infinite love, and bring some of that back into their lives, what might that change?